Hi everyone, hope all is going well. Haven't done a video in a while and just wanted to share some thoughts in this topic regarding to start really cherishing your elders, making amends with your elders if you have, a not so good relationship with your parents or anything like that, and just really spending time with them. I don't even think I can begin to tell you the amount of stories that I've heard, but also witnessed myself over the last few months, or just maybe even over 2023, that these old people are falling apart, and it's accelerating a little bit more rapidly now. I think I mentioned in other videos, I've never seen so many estate sales in my life, and that still rings true to this day. A lot of the sales are old people dying off. They're moving into memory care because they're just in such bad shape and disrepair. But a couple, I wanted to also talk about this because as now people are signing up for their fifth shot, in addition to, from my knowledge, that an executive order that Biden signed in 2022, I believe it was 2022, allows flu shots to start having mRNA technology in it. And so as people are signing up, people who attend my classes are signing up for more of these, and also seeing side effects that they still don't make the connection to that, these things are the cause of it. It's really sad seeing them fall apart. A couple just brief examples. One of my yoga students, who is her 70s, is constantly getting sick. Doctors can't figure out, she's constantly getting flus, but all of these tests that they're running aren't flus. So she's like, do you know anybody else that's sick? Do you know anybody else that's sick? And I knew a lot of people, even my estate sale friends, who are a little bit on the older side, like in their 50s and 60s, who believe in all this stuff of what's going on, said back in August they were really, really sick. And so, as one of my students is constantly getting sick, is like, thank God for naturopathic medicine to help. But there's still no question to why, like, what's going on? Why is she so up and down? Like, 1 minute she's fine and then she's sick, and then 2 weeks later she's sick again. And it's constantly has been this cycle for 5, 6, 7 months. I recently ran into a lady who was running an estate sale, I was actually supposed to buy a quilt from her, and I never kind of heard from her again. I did spend a lot of money. She is an antique dealer herself, and I spent a lot of money buying stuff from her because she's trying to get out of the business because she's in her 80s and doesn't want to do this anymore. But with this inflation, she still needs to work because she's like, well, my retirement isn't going up. She was forced to leave out of her condo to move into an apartment, further up north, because she can't afford it anymore, and can't afford the Seattle property taxes and things like that. So where I'm going with this is I didn't see her and never heard from her. And so I was like, well, she never, finished up this quilt, whatever, I'm not going to be sad about it. But I was just driving by and I saw an estate sale sign. So I was like, crap. Okay, fine. I'll stop in. And it was her running it. And I did not really know that she ran a bunch of, I didn't know she runs sales on herself. But she was like, oh my goodness, how are you? Like all that little chit chat. And she's like, oh, I'm doing fine. She's like, yeah, I haven't seen you since that day. And she goes, I actually had a heart attack during that sale that you were at, because I spent like an hour there and we were just chit-chatting, about the old days and stuff. And she was having heart issues and then ended up going to the doctor like the next day, and she basically had a heart attack. Obviously it wasn't in that extreme, but she still had one. At my sewing group, one lady who attends the sewing group, she's actually Catholic and goes to a different church, but the sewing group at this specific Lutheran church was asking about how the person was who collapsed in church the week prior. And so the woman who's Catholic is like, oh my God, we also had somebody who just passed out right in the middle of church about 3 weeks ago. They're all old. They're the older people who are passing out. Once again, still no question or thought about this, why this is happening. I mean, these people have been going to some of the same churches their entire life. Since some of these people have been going to church since they were born in the late 40s and 50s and have never witnessed anything like this. But once again, still no question. And the only couple things I can think of is that, one, humans are on autopilot, especially a lot of these liberals and progressives. There is something within the intellectual mind that does disconnect people. And I'm not saying that they don't have any wisdom in their life in other areas of life, but there just definitely is some disconnect that's there. That generation has elevated doctors on a pedestal, kind of like almost this godlike creature that I think too, because a lot of their generation, their friends or their husbands or their fathers or something like that was a doctor, and through that post-World War II time, a lot of these people were creators. A lot of this stuff was the foundation to a lot of things that occurred or happened in this country. Some of that could have been more greatest generation in the earlier part, the people who were predominantly the builders. But I think they just have this innate trust, in addition to because they are kind human beings and they are moral themselves, that they cannot think that other people aren't going to cause harm, or because a doctor has gone through all of this, these 12 or so years of intellectual training, that they are, it's like a math equation, like because they went through all of this schooling that they automatically know it all and know everything. And how many times have people gone to a doctor and have gotten zero results? The doctors have not known what the hell is going on. They study zero amounts of nutrition because they don't understand how the body works like a garden on a holistic level, and how everything is working in unison. They're very chopped up, which you kind of need, sure, a specialty. If you're going to be an orthopedic surgeon, you probably really need to excel on the knee or the foot or the wrist or something like that. Being very broad and general in that sense might not really result in quality care or surgery. But the number one thing that I think I've noticed with old people is that they are stuck in a World War II paradigm. A lot of these baby boomers are still stuck in this JFK era, thinking like the Democratic Party and that America and the youth and kids are similar to what they were back in the 50s and 60s, or this Depression era where everybody was clinging together. They're just stuck in a different paradigm, and they really haven't caught up. And I don't know if any of them really will, because they're kind of just stuck in this old way that just doesn't exist anymore. And that is what I think is the biggest disconnect and challenge for them, because they're kind of on the losing end of the stick, on the caboose that's not doing good, on this freight train that's like headed toward disaster. And so my best recommendation is to spend time with them, especially if they're still signing up for more of these things. If you have an unsteady relationship and you want to make peace or amends with your parents, this is a great opportunity to do that. It may or may not work out in your favor. I don't know. Humans are extremely complicated these days, but They're falling apart, and they're falling apart really fast, and it's happening really, really rapidly. I mean, we're talking about people who are like going immediately from living in their house to memory care. There is really no transition from even independent living in your house to independent living in a home. Then, you know, eventually as your body continues to degrade, moving into something like memory care. And so all of this toxic chemicals from these things are the heavy metals that are causing the blood-brain barriers that are increasing and accelerating the rates of dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think I might have mentioned this in another video, but I think I'm going to do a separate one. You know, I worked at a Jewish retirement home, and so a lot of those people really were very like still depression, 1940, 50 era ways of living. They preferred their own cultural foods. And I had, you know, 98 to 102-year-old people who were so mentally sharp and could remember, like, I escaped Germany in 1938 and all of this stuff. And then I started noticing, like, we had between 68 and 73-year-olds moving in with early stages of Alzheimer's or dementia, or already full-blown Alzheimer's and dementia, where they were still independent living. However, they were not able to leave the facility and go on walks and stuff by themselves. They had to be supervised. One guy was just like draining his bank account, going to the bank every day and withdrawing money, and had no clue what he did with his money, couldn't remember that he was shopping his money away, was sucking down Coca-Cola and candy like crazy. So, you know, there's a whole thing that is involved in the environmental side of all of this on top of these things. So anyways, just wanted to share. Hope all is well. Have a great day. Bye-bye.